He leaves home for a simple thing, a hunting trip, the kind that is supposed to end with muddy boots at the door and a tired laugh in the kitchen. But this one ends with silence that never lifts. East Texas has a certain kind of quiet, the kind that looks peaceful until it feels like it is hiding something. Long roads, dense woods, and pockets of land where a person can vanish without a witness. On November 17, 2022, Josh Larkin is last known to leave home for that hunting trip near Kirbyville, and after that, the timeline becomes a series of gaps that investigators spend years trying to stitch shut. The first thing you learn in missing person cases is that routine matters, because routine creates a baseline, and anything that breaks the baseline becomes a clue. So when he does not come back, the normal turns immediately into alarm. The location that keeps repeating in this story is a place called the Exotic Cat Refuge, and that name alone carries a strange weight, because it is not a typical landmark for a hunting trip, but it becomes the point where the trail goes cold. By the next day, his mother finds his vehicle left at the Exotic Cat Refuge on Private Road 7025 in Kirbyville. And now it is not just that he is missing, it is that his car is waiting where he is not. There is a particular kind of fear that comes from an abandoned vehicle, because it feels like an interrupted sentence, as if someone stopped mid-word, stepped into the trees, and never came back to finish the thought. Early on, authorities say foul play is suspected, and that detail matters because it changes the entire posture of the investigation, from search and rescue to something darker, something that assumes intention. The immediate question becomes brutally simple. What happened between leaving home and the vehicle being left behind? Because somewhere inside that short window is the truth. Investigators interview the people who were at the refuge at the same time, and they search the refuge and the surrounding wooded areas, because at the beginning you work the obvious ground before the ground has time to cool. But the forest does not give answers easily, and time is not a neutral force. It erases footprints, it scatters memory, and it lets small details get swallowed by distance. Months turn into a year, then another, and the public starts to experience the case in fragments, a name, a face, a date, and the kind of uncertainty that becomes permanent when there is no body and no clean explanation. In cases like this, the community becomes part of the story, because someone always knows something. A half-seen vehicle, an odd conversation, a moment that felt wrong, but people do not always speak when they should. The case remains active, and over time, new leadership and renewed focus are described as giving the investigation a fresh look, which is often what cold cases need, not a miracle, but persistence, paired with a new set of eyes. In February 2025, investigators excavate an abandoned well site during a search, and that image is hard to shake, because it shows how far the investigation is willing to go, literally into the earth, looking for what the surface will not reveal. The public rarely sees the exhausting physical side of investigations, but here it becomes visible. Heavy machinery, sifting debris, and the slow, methodical work of chasing a lead that might end in nothing. This is where you start to feel the weight of time, because every search suggests both progress and frustration. Progress because someone believes the lead matters. Frustration because the answer is still not in the open. The investigation continues, and what remains consistent is one fact that shapes everything. His remains have not been found, and that leaves the family stuck in a cruel kind of limbo where closure never arrives. Then comes a shift that tells you something changed behind the scenes, because in November 2025, authorities announce arrests connected to the case, and the story moves from questions to allegations. 4 people are arrested, and 2 are charged with murder, along with tampering with evidence with intent to impair a corpse, while 2 others face tampering charges. And these are serious accusations that suggest investigators believe the missing person case is a homicide case. It is important to say this plainly. An arrest is not a conviction, and charges are not proof. But arrests do tell you that investigators believe they have probable cause and a narrative strong enough to put in front of a court. The arrests also tell you something else, that the case is no longer just a search for a man who vanished. It is now a search for the truth of what he walked into and who may have been involved. When you look back to that vehicle left behind, the image becomes even heavier, because it now reads less like an accident and more like a staging point. A deliberate choice to leave the car where it would be found. After the arrests, the case does not end, because the most painful part remains unresolved. Investigators still need to locate Joshua Larkin, and until they do, the story stays unfinished. In January 2026, authorities conduct a large-scale search on a property near Kirbyville, bringing in Texas EquiSearch volunteers and advanced search technology, and officials say items of possible evidentiary value are found. This is the part that feels like a second chapter, because after years of quiet effort, the case becomes visibly active again, with warrants, searches, and a public message that the investigation is pushing forward. Every time investigators say they found items of evidentiary value, it creates attention, because the public never sees the full picture, and they should not. But you can feel that something is being assembled, piece by piece. A case like this lives on two tracks at once: the legal track that moves in filings and hearings, and the human track that moves in days and nights and the unbearable quiet of not knowing where someone is. Then there is the community factor again, because officials publicly emphasize that they believe there are individuals who know where Joshua is, and that detail matters. It suggests the missing piece may not be forensic. It may be someone deciding to speak. In late January 2026, the reward is increased to $15,000 for information about his whereabouts. And rewards are not just money, they are a signal of urgency and a way to shake loose a conscience. If you are trying to understand why disappearances like this consume people, it is because the mind cannot accept an ending that has no scene, no final location, no certainty, just a man who went hunting and never came back. There is also something psychologically brutal about time in these cases, because every year that passes makes the case harder. Witnesses move, memories rot, and the landscape changes, but the family stays in the same moment. What we can say with confidence is the spine of the timeline. Last known departure for a hunting trip on November 17, 2022. Vehicle found at the Exotic Cat Refuge the next day. Years of investigation, then arrests announced in November 2025, then renewed searches and reward increases into January 2026. What we cannot responsibly do is fill in the gaps with rumor, because high-profile cases attract noise, and noise can harm a real investigation and real people, so we stay with what is confirmed and what is officially alleged. If you are watching this and you are local, your role is not to solve it in the comments. Your role is to remember that there is a family living inside this story, and any real information belongs with investigators, not with the internet. For the rest of us, this case is a reminder that disappearances are rarely cinematic in real life. They are quiet, they are abrupt, and they leave behind ordinary objects that suddenly feel haunted. A vehicle, a road, a patch of woods. There is a reason the vehicle location matters so much, because a vehicle is a decision point. It says this is where someone stopped, and in a case with allegations of foul play, it becomes a statement someone wanted the world to read. If investigators eventually recover Joshua and build a complete narrative, that will be the moment this story can finally be told in full. But right now, the ending is still missing, and that absence is the tragedy. Until then, the case remains active. Arrests have been made, searches continue, and officials keep asking for information, which means this is not history. It is an ongoing fight for answers. And if you take one thing from this, let it be this: when someone disappears, the most important thing is not the spectacle, it is the persistence, because time helps the guilty and punishes the forgotten, unless people refuse to let the story die.